today is Wednesday again, and we are so great to have Venerable Trishan tonight with us to discuss about the topic awakening. So it's very interesting topic. I would like to pass the floor now to Venerable Trishan. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Yulin. First of all, thank you for inviting me to join you all. You are all new to me, so as the introduction, I work with Venerable Miao Guang. She is my boss, even though we were in the youth group, the BIYAD together when we were in the Sydney subdivision. So as you know that we are in the Fo Guangshan, and our department is called Fo Guangshan Institute of Humanistic Buddhism. And our group is called the CIA, the Center of International Affairs. So we do a lot of translations of Venerable Master's works. One of them being the Buddha Dharma Pure and Simple. This is not my project, but of course, as all publications, we all help with the proofreading and as part of the team. So when Venerable Yulin gave me a whole list of the articles that you guys been doing, I chose awakening, but I must make a disclaimer that I am nowhere near awakened, okay? Don't put me on that pedestal that, but I think for me, awakening is something that is very of all of our interests. We all wish to live our lives with a little bit more awakening. So I understand that you all will start by reading the article first. So shall we, I'm not really quite familiar with, but maybe how do you usually choose who to read or?
Okay,
So,
I'll just start it, Sapo, and then we'll share the screen. I'll read a paragraph or two, and then I'll just call someone else on the screen.
sure.
Okay, so we'll start the reading part.
Okay.
Okay. Awakening. In life, there are many mysteries leading to unanswered questions and confusions. Imagine if one were awakened and all-knowing, would not the attainment of Buddhahood then be possible? For this reason, Chan masters of the past only pursued enlightenment and not Buddhahood. Many think that awakening is a rather mysterious and difficult matter. But awakening can occur on many levels. For example, the acquirement of knowledge that leads to certain levels of understanding can be regarded as a type of awakening. In Buddhism, it is believed that small questions lead to small awakenings. Major questions lead to major awakenings, while no questions lead to no awakening. Therefore, it is important to inquire and to question. Only with questions can one become wiser and inspired. Only from questions come solutions and realization. This is what awakening is about. So let me try to call Jerome.
Okay. Inventions and discoveries by scientists such as the light bulb by Thomas Edison, the airplane by the Wright brothers, gravity by Isaac Newton, and electricity by Benjamin Franklin are all types of awakening. However, these are merely awakening to phenomena that gave rise to worldly knowledge and theory. They are unlike the great awakening of Chan masters, who were awakened to the answers of the questions, where does life begin? And where will one go after death? Once practitioner attain awakening, recollections of memories, no matter how far into the past, would come to them. Thus, to the awakened mind, time-wise, all matters from the past, present, or future are all within a moment of thought. Space-wise, all matters from the 10 directions, such as north, east, south, west, are all inside the practitioner's mind. In a single present moment, the entire multiverse is within the practitioner's grasp. May I call on Auntie Louisa for the next one? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Su Tongpo, a Song Dynasty poet, once composed 3 poems that describe the 3 phases of Chan and awakening. The first phase before practicing Chan, arranged from across but a peak from the side, far, near, high and low, each a view by sight. Why has one failed to see Mount Lu's real face? All only because right inside Mount Lu he is. This refers to the state where a mountain is a mountain, water is water, which is deluded understanding by the discriminating mind. Okay, next. See, next. Can do next. OJ, Oj.
Okay, thank you. The second phase, before awakening, after practicing Chan. Misty rains of Mount Lu and tides in Zhejiang. Unless really there, 1,000 resentments will linger. Having finally arrived, everything seemed purposeless. Still, the misty rains of Mount Lu. Still, the tides in Zhejiang. This refers to the state where a mountain is no longer a mountain and water is no longer water. The mountains and water no longer look as they do now, that one sees with wisdom. May I call on Keith?
Hi, Oj. Okay, the third phase after awakening. The babbling creeks are his broad, long tongue. The scenic mountains are none but his pure body. Nightfall brings 84,000 gathas. In the days ahead, how should such be presented to all? After eradicating the attachment to greed and desire, one now sees that the mountain is still a mountain and water is still water. The mountains and water that one observes come from the spring of wisdom that flows from the mind. Therefore, one now views everything with an ordinary mind. Should I read that next, or?
Yeah, I can read one more and then call somebody else.
Okay. Be it a monastic or lay practitioner, one need not seek the eradication of calamity or adversity. Instead, one should seek to become awakened. Likened to the state of drunkenness to escape reality is the state of ignorance. Akin to the great elimination of the universe is the state of awakening. I'd call on Jan.
Buddhists prostrate to the Buddha in search of awakening. In the same way, they recite the Buddha's name in search of awakening, do good in search of awakening, and practice Chan in search of awakening. From this, the Buddhists, awakening is hope, while ignorance is suffering. Having been ignorant life after life, one has failed to transcend rebirth. However, once awakened, be it life or death, one will face everything with clarity of mind.
Okay, call one more person to finish everything.
Cheryl? Oh, Cheryl, please. Hello.
Hello. Okay. Omitopo. Wei-Neng, the sixth Chan patriarch, may have been illiterate, yet he became awakened. When Tai Su went into a retreat aged 19, he had never been to school, yet became awakened. In the same way, there are many Buddhists today who have become awakened. They just choose not to reveal it. Unlike in the past, the Buddha was able to recognize any awakened mind by just hearing them speak or connecting spiritually. But today, there is no true witness to anyone's awakening. Buddhist practitioners today need not regard awakening as an impossible task. If one's spiritual cultivations continues, virtue and attain will arise. Consequently, awakening is thus possible.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful reading. Let me just share. Okay. Sorry. Okay, can you see
Yes.
the PowerPoint? Okay. So I have decided to use this method, which some of you may be familiar with, which is the 4 stages that we will actually try to understand this article. Okay, the 4 sections are recall, reflect, relate, and realize. Okay, so under recall, so we will actually go into the actual article. Okay, I have just a few questions to get us a little bit warmed up. So feel free to just unmute yourself if you wish to share the answers. These answers can be found in the actual article, and they're not difficult, okay? So what did Chan masters of the past only pursue according to this article?
Enlightenment, they only pursued enlightenment, not Buddhahood.
Yes, yes, correct. What do many think awakening is?
Many think awakening is a rather mystery or difficult matter.
Yes, many think that awakening is rather mysterious and difficult matter, right? So what is awakening about? This one requires a little bit more reading.
Is it some kind of a realization, Sapo?
Yes, so on the second paragraph, okay, so where it says in Buddhism, it is believed that small questions lead to small awakening. Major questions lead to major awakening, while no questions lead to no awakening. Therefore, it is important to inquire and to question. Only with questions can one become wiser and inspired. Only from questions come solution and realization. Okay, this is what awakening is about. Okay, what happens after practitioner attain awakening?
It says here, Sifu, that when practitioners attain awakening, recollections of memories, no matter how far in the past, would come to them.
Yes. Mhm.
And an awakened mind, time-wise, all matters from past, present, or future are all within a moment of thought. So there's no, everything is contained in a moment of thought, past, present, and future, once one is awakened.
Yes, correct. Okay, so last question for this section is, in Su Dongguo's poems that describe the 3 phases of awakening, or phases and awakening. What are the 3 phases?
The first phase is before practicing Chan. The second phase is before awakening, after practicing Chan. And the third phase is after awakening.
Yes, correct. Okay, so then we come to the section of reflecting. Okay, so what do you think? What do you think that Chan masters of the past, or why do you think, sorry, why do you think that Chan masters of the past only pursue enlightenment, not Buddhahood? Okay, so this one, we have just read the first paragraph, right? So it says, for this reason, Chan masters of the past only pursue enlightenment. But before that, it was talking about that if many mysteries leading to unanswered questions and confusion, imagine one were awakened and all-knowing, right? Would not the attainment of Buddhahood then be possible, right? So if you have awakening, naturally you will have Buddhahood. So the aim should be put on the awakening, not so much on the Buddhahood, because the Buddhahood is just going to come with it, right? So the focus should be on the awakening and the enlightenment, right? Okay. So what do you think it means that Venerable Master tells us that one need not seek the eradication of calamity or adversity? Instead, one should seek to become awakened. What do you think it means? This can be found.
Yeah.
Sorry, anyone wants to share?
One should seek to become awakened. Likened to the state of drunkenness, to escape reality is the state of ignorance. Akin to the great illumination of the universe is a state of awakening.
Mhm.
So, be it a monastic or lay practitioner, one need not seek the eradication of calamity or adversity. One should seek awakening.
Any other thoughts? What do you think Venerable Master means when he says we seek not just to eradicate this
I
calamity?
have from my opinion after reading the whole article, right? I think it's because in seeking for the eradication of calamity or adversity, we attach ourselves also in trying to be awakened, in which case that is probably not the path to awakening, because we get attached to trying to do something, if I understand it right.
Mhm. So you think that there is still that sense of attaching to the self?
Yeah, so it's not being if you're attached also trying to eradicate the calamity, that itself is being attached to something, so which is not I don't think that's part of being awakened, I think.
Yes. So in other words, it should be more focused on, okay, let me ask you another question then. Do you think the Buddha had anger? The Buddha is an awakened being. Do you think he had any anger?
Wasn't able to get rid of that when he was awakened.
Okay. So any other thoughts?
Buddha has anger too. Yes, he has, because of his compassion to the disciples. He needs to show anger once in a while in order to teach something.
Yes. So, you know, the Buddha still had anger. Often so it kind of relates to this question, right? It's not so much that we want to get rid of all these so-called negative negative things, right? But it's what we do with it, right? So it's what we do with it. So the Buddha truly, he still had anger, but he was very much aware before his anger arrives. But often we blow up, like we don't even see our anger coming. It's just like we see the results. I mean, it's more like people feel the results of our anger because we would have already blown up at them. Right? If we could learn to see the anger before it even arises, you start to feel your body heating up and you know that you're going to say something you're going to regret, right? So the Buddha was very much aware of everything that was around him, including his anger. It's just that he was very wise in how he would express that anger. And of course, like Louisa said, so often it's for the intention of teaching or for a purpose, right? Okay, any other thoughts anyone else would like to share about this question?
This one, Sifu, it says that one need not seek the eradication of calamity and adversity. I think it means that let things take their natural course. So the causes and conditions will arise. No need to try to change them. No need to be so affected with them because an enlightened mind, an awakened mind will see that calamity and adversity is all part of living, of the path
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to
Yes,
awakening and enlightenment.
you brought a good point. It's because seeing that everything comes together because out of causes and conditions, right? So being able to see that it's a combination of a lot of things coming together. So with an awakened mind, you will see through things that you know that it's not because of one thing, right? So you learn to be able to accept it, right? Thank you for that. Any other thoughts?
So I think Venerable Master said not to seek eradication of calamity and adversity because these are all external matter, and sometimes it's very difficult to change these things. It's going to happen anyway. Like, for example, a storm is coming. It's coming. I mean, it's very difficult to stop a storm. But we can always seek to become awakened, which is to change ourselves, to change our perspective, to change for the better. So we're doing something for ourselves. So I think that's, even though it's difficult to do, but I think there's a better chance that we will succeed by trying to change ourselves than to change the storm outside.
True.
There was a thought I thought about that. I think there's something I read about this, that the sphere of control and the sphere of influence. I think it's what you can do. There are things that you cannot do, but basically you can. What is important is what you can control in yourself, rather than start changing something that is impossible for you. Like what Erwin did say. If you cannot change the storm, you cannot stop the storm, but you can seek protection from the storm. You can seek shelter away from the storm. That's what you can do. Or you can help others also to seek shelter from the storm. But you cannot really stop the storm.
There's a quote that by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I really like her quote, where she says that what we want to hope for, that's the kind of wisdom. Okay, so is for me to recognize things that I can change. Okay, and I can recognize things that I cannot change and know the difference. That requires wisdom, right? So if there are things like you said, changing my perspective, my attitudes about the situation, but there are certain things that no matter how much I try, sometimes we push for things, but we would only just cause more suffering, right? So it's the wisdom to know the difference, right? when should I actually be proactive and when I should actually take a step back and just wait for the right conditions to actually respond, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Okay, this will be a difficult one. So what is your interpretation of the 3 phases of Chan and awakening?
I'll take a guess.
Sure.
The first phase where mountains are mountains is that we see things in form that's not empty. We have labels for them. And then when mountains are not mountains anymore, um, it can be like we have a thoughtless awareness or awareness without form. And then in the third stage, where mountains are mountains again, um, we see in form or what's we see it in words and form that's not empty, but behind our mind we see it as like, and we know it's empty and it's formless. That's my guess. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong, answer for this because it's your interpretation, right? So let's hear for the others.
Okay, can I try?
Sure.
Okay. How I stand about the 3 phases of Chan is basically how okay, before we practice Chan, right, we are the normal mind not being awakened yet. And so when we see things as they are, because that's what they are, for us, I see the mountain. What do you call that? That's a mountain. Okay. So after that, once we start practicing Chan, then we start learning about the conditions and the causes and karma, everything like that. So we look at it that the mountain is really not a mountain. It's basically it's basically all these conditions from the earth to the soil to the trees and growing like that. So that's when we got to the second stage when we start practicing Chan. But once we go to the third stage of Chan, then at the end of it all, we think because there is no longer the attachment, then we think that actually when everything is like void, the mountain's still a mountain. What else you call that? That's actually a mountain. But basically, it's if we look at it, it looks similar as if you are before when you start practicing Chan, but actually it's on another level, but because you don't have the attachment anymore. There was that I watched this movie before about the Master Huineng, and I think there was one. I think he's one of his elder elder what you call brother, right? He said, I think he wrote something about like our body is like the Bodhi tree, I think, and it's similar to like a mirror, and so what we need is we have to always clean that mirror up. So that is, I think, from practicing realization on the second stage of Chan. And then after that, then Master Huineng, going to the third level, he came out that, so actually the body itself doesn't have a tree because everything is void. So since everything is void, what is there to clean? There is no mirror to clean at all. So I don't know. That's how I interpreted with that 3 phases of Chan.
Thank you, Jerome. Anyone else? We have 30 people in this chat, so surely
It's very deep. It's very deep to understand.
it's a difficult one, huh?
So for this reminds me of the Diamond Sutra again.
Sure. Would you like to say a bit more?
Oh yeah. Actually, I came across this or made a little bit more understanding of this when I was teaching a class about the Four Noble Truths. So the Four Noble Truths talks about the suffering. And then in the class, someone who probably studied a little bit about Buddhism. So he said, in reality, if you understand a little Dharma, there is no suffering. So I said, yes, that's true. But if you study even more, then you will realize that there is suffering. So that's why you would want to become enlightened or awakened. So many times we see things, we grasp onto it, and then but when we realize a little bit, we learn to let go. But that doesn't change the thing, right? It's still there. We learn to let go of our suffering in this world, but it's really, while we are in this samsara, it's still there. So ultimately, we have to realize that we have to attain awakening. Otherwise, we are still stuck in this world, and we still have to go through all the suffering.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Well, okay. So I was gonna share, but I'm gonna save it for the next question. Okay. So the next question says, have you had any experience where you went through a process of awakening? If yes, please share that experience. So this question is kind of relating to the three phases. Okay, so let me kind of speak a little bit. Maybe this will get you kind of thinking a bit. So I think in terms of these three phases, right? If we think about before you learn Buddhism, can you still recall back before you learn Buddhism? And before you even heard anything about the Buddha's teachings, about the law of impermanence, about all these causes and conditions, about Four Noble Truths, about Eightfold Noble Path, all of these terminologies that you have learned, before you heard about this, right? What is your sense of the self? Right? If you still can recall back, how you thought of this self that you call I, for example. Right? When we say I, you always think, yeah, that's me. And you would think you take a lot of things is about me. So the sense of self is this body that I have, my name, right? What I own and everything, my family, all of these makes up who I am, right? Okay. After you learn Buddhism, is this sense of self still the same? And after you learn Buddhism, you suddenly thought, what do you mean this is not me? Because it tells you non-self. And suddenly you think, oh, okay, so who am I, right? The famous Chan question that always asks you, who was I before I was born? Right? Your sense of self suddenly becomes a bit kind of like, oh, this who I call I is no longer I, right? So, but of course, we're not really quite at the third stage yet. But after as you years of practicing Buddhism, you start to kind of understand yourself a lot more. And you know that this is still who I am, right? Because you know that what you're experiencing in this body or this consciousness that you have is a combination of all your past previous lifetimes that you ever had, right? That make up who you are. So in some ways, after a process of this, before learning Buddhism, after learning Buddhism, right? And then of course we aim for the third stage after awakening. Right? Then our sense of self, it's still the sense of self, but now the way you see yourself is no longer the way you saw yourself in the first stage, right? Before you learn Buddhism. Okay. So with that, if you think about this question, right, have there been a situation where you feel like before you learn Buddhism, how would you respond to this situation? Or maybe after you learn Buddhism, how would you respond to this situation differently? Okay, that kind of, we can kind of do a bit of sharing. Okay?
I can share a bit about that, Sapo.
Yeah.
Before I practice Buddhism, my sense of self is anger. And many of my participants here knows about this already because I keep on talking about this. To a point that I see my anger as the self, as part of me, and to a point that I would justify being angry. I would justify that I'm the boss or I am right. So I have the right to be angry. So the anger and me is like one. But when I learn about Buddhism, it doesn't mean that, well, a lot of the anger, it has been eliminated or lessened, but anger still arises. But now I see the anger as a combination of the situation and then the anger arising, separate from this body or this self. So it's like the combination already because of the situation, tense situation or whatever, then the anger starts to arise. So I don't see it as part of me anymore, the anger itself. So at least there's some kind of a separation now.
Thank you.
So Erwin, that's just the second stage you went through. So how do you go for the
Yes,
third
I'm not
stage?
awakened yet, so so I cannot totally separate the two yet.
Work in progress. Work in progress.
Buddha, like his anger is controlled anger, right? What Master Chusung was saying, Buddha's anger is controlled. He purposely show his anger because of what you did. Me, I'm not at that stage yet. So sometimes the anger will arise. What Master said, that it just happened and you don't know it just happened. But at least I can see it, and then I try to look at what was the cause of that anger, right?
Mhm.
So now I try to see where did it start. Before I would justify, no, I'm right. That's why I'm angry. You're wrong. That's why I'm angry. So then that doesn't resolve things, right?
Mhm. Sure. Thank you. Cheryl, would you like to share something?
Yes, the same with Sir Erwin. Before, I'm easily get anger or and a lot of things, not only anger. But maybe the thing that strike me is I don't know where it came, but I feel so I'm not so sure if I have the depression thing. Um, um, how can I say? But because I always pray. I don't know if until now I don't know who's the real God. I go to a lot of churches before this Buddha because I want to attain peace, peace and just peace, and to attain the real happiness and joy, not only for myself, to my entire family as well. So maybe for me, awakening is I know how to fear, and I know and I believe that there is really a true God, good God. But um, but as of now, I don't know who he or she. I don't know, but I know there is really a God. Awakening for me is also I know how to fear, and I know that the this that I feel suffering right now is only temporarily, but if God gave us wisdom, can give us wisdom, I know I can attain a peace. And it's really helpful for me on this Buddha's teaching, because I know that when you, as a mother, I know how to take care of my suffering, like and how I taking care of my two children right now. That is the answer for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay.
I think I'd like to share my what's this? My experience.
Sure, please. Go ahead.
Okay. I know this is against the fifth precept, but I took something like ayahuasca, and then I felt like so much love. So much forgiveness. I think that's the third stage. Not like a very high stage, but before I took that, I was a very angry and bitter person. I think I still am now, but I'm working on it. I think my karma is very heavy, so maybe next life, then it's okay. But one thing I learned from that is that my realizations were exactly the same realizations as the Buddha's teachings, that compassion, inner peace, everything. So I just want to share that was my experience of awakening, which was very beautiful.
Thank you. Okay. Stephanie, do you want to share? No? Jan? Is it Jan?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Awakening. I'm not sure if it is awakening, but like mm, let me think. Like before, I just see myself like very self-centered, like very ego. The ego is like there. I just believe what I see, but I experience something like a season in the past, like few years ago. I just observed for I don't know the reason, but it just came suddenly that I wanted to observe people, just sit and observe a lot. Then I realized that um there are a lot more things to see, and my eyes is just one of the eye, and there are many more eyes that can view one reality in different ways. So I don't know, that kind of like thoughts, and then um I don't know if that's awakening, but I realize that whenever I look at an event and then perceive it, like, so this is, for example, in a cafe, like, okay, these people are doing let's say chatting and just relaxing, and then if I look at see it differently, I can say, oh, these people are having agenda and doing like business or what, and I say that, oh, this view or perspective is, I think, not me, and not me, so I don't see things like this, and I only see things like these people are chatting and no like agenda. So that's it, like that's really different, and because of it I can respect a lot more people, and I can feel like the word empathy. So that's it. If that's awakening.
I
That's
guess what
all
you're
I can
describing
share.
is kind of changing your perspective,
I
right?
think.
The way you see things. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Oh, you're
Anyone
welcome.
else? Yeah. So I'm not sure if the others who are not on the video, whether or not you are here.
Hello.
Yes.
Wait. Can
Hello. Hello.
wait.
Is it- Would you like to share something?
Yeah. Can you see me, Shifu?
Sure, I can see you.
Yeah. Um, I want to share, for me, I had an awakening process also by taking some herbal and some spiritual practices and medicines, and also unwenting the Hala program. I can say that the awakening process is, it's never ending, and you should be it should be continuous. It has no end for me, because you can be awakened now and then maybe later not awaken, or awaken today but tomorrow you have anger. It's like you should maintain that state, because before, when I was at the temple after the program, I thought I knew everything already. I thought I was in the state that I know everything and all. And then suddenly I had a child. So at that moment, I didn't know anything about taking care of a child. I don't know any single idea of how to take care of life. And that really changed the perspective that I have about awakening. So the attachment once again built on me. I before having a child, I have no attachment at all. But now that I have a child, and then I was challenged, I had an attachment, of course, because it's my son. And then I went to a breakup with my partner and my son. So it brings back my anger and everything. So there I realized that awakening should be a continuous process. Like you should always darkest situations on our life. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing such personal story. Well, what you described there is a work in progress, right? So when we first hear the Buddha's teachings, when we first hear the Four Noble Truths, when it tells us that life is dissatisfaction in life. And often when we see that there's a problem, we often think we want the solution very quickly, but we're missing a step often, which is acceptance. Because you have the awareness and very quickly you want to jump to solution. But there is a middle stage where you need to accept it first, right? So for all of us that learn in the process of learning the Buddha's teachings, it's a long process. Right? It's a long process. And we can't be hurried in the way that we wish to. I mean, we are obviously work in progress. Like in this article, it says that small questions lead to small enlightenment, right? So enlightenment and this awakening is not like a big bang, you know, it doesn't just suddenly happen. It's through small by small, little bit by little bit. That's all of what you have shared is that process of you coming to realize whether or not you changing your perspective the way you think of yourself or the way you see the world around you, right? So the more, I don't know about you, but the more I learn Buddhism, the more I feel like I don't know. The more I don't know about who I am, the more I don't know about this world, because everything you thought, whatever you've been taught, then you suddenly realize that it's not like that, right? And after even learning Buddhism, then suddenly you try to apply it and it's still not what you thought, because it's just an understanding, right? When you hear the teachings, you try to grab it as a concept. But then when you try to apply it into your life, you discover something else, right? And you thought by doing this, you're being compassionate. And then the person gets angry at you, right? They didn't want your help, right? You're being a bodhisattva. I'm being a bodhisattva. I'm trying to help you. And they don't want your help. Then what do you do then, right? So, yeah, so I think so far, thank you for sharing. How are we doing with time? It's almost time. So I want to move on to a little bit about, well, we can do the next one first. I want to share, maybe we'll come back to this one, but I want to share some words of wisdom by Venerable Master. Okay, so Venerable Master Xing Yun, he actually shared with us these 8 things that we can actually learn, okay, in life. In terms of our material things, we can learn to simplify. Okay, so I must say that the English is just what I came up with. Okay, so you know, so for the ones that can read Chinese, sure, go ahead and read the Chinese. So in terms of material things, we need to learn to simplify. Okay, not sure about you, but as the years go by, you find that the moment when you have to move house, that's when you realize how much you've accumulated unknowingly, right? So with our material things, we want to learn to simplify, right? So in terms of our life, our daily life, we need to learn more skills, right? He tells us that we can learn more skills. At least have different licenses. He tells us you should have a driver's license, you have a cooking license, or whatever license, being a pilot. So it's trying to keep you to keep learning, right? So we keep learning. And then with our speech, learn to be humorous, he says. So he tells a story of this devotee's daughter, right? The mother was kind of complaining that, oh, my daughter doesn't want to get married. And so she went to talk to Venerable Master, and Venerable Master tried to talk to the daughter. It's like, okay, so your mom is very concerned that why you're not getting married. And she says, well, I haven't found any man who is a humorous person. So even for a decision to who she wants to marry, she would rather to marry someone who's humorous, right? So with our speech, sometimes something so serious, but if we can be humorous and light about it, right? The way we can express it in a way that it makes it kind of comfortable for the listener, right? Okay, so in terms of being a human being, right? Learn to be creative. So some people, they take different routes to work, but I guess all of you still in lockdown at the moment. Are you all still in lockdown? Are you still, you've been locked down? Well, in some ways, actually, Fo Guangshan has been locked down. I'm not sure if you're aware. Fo Guangshan at the moment, we're not open to any visitors. And for even monastics, when we want to go out, we need to apply leave. And when we return, we need to go to another place where we stay there for 7 days before we can come back to being in the community. So a lot of our gatherings, even, I'm not sure if you've been to Fo Guangshan, the formal meals that we have, we don't sit together and have a big meal anymore. We all bring our lunch boxes and we go and get food. And then we come back to our own dormitory or office and we eat separately now, just to not congregate. As you know, Fo Guangshan Monastery has a lot of people, right? So how do you remain creative in the four walls of your house since you've been locked down, right? So this is a challenge for you to be creative despite maybe every day seems to be the same, right? You can do something different and try to be creative in the day. Okay. Okay, in terms of handling affairs, he says learn to be low-key. What does that mean? Right? Learn to be low-key means to be chill about it. You know, you do it in a chill way, kind of easygoing, not making things so complicated, right? So have you ever kind of encountered where sometimes something very, very simple, it lands on the hands of certain people, it becomes so complicated. On the other hand, something so complicated, when it lands in the hands of a wise person, it becomes so simple, right? So what kind of a person, which one are you? Right? Are you the one that kind of like,
I want to be.
Not complicated.
make things so complicated? Or are you the one that everything kind of like people come to you with big problems and you can just turn things around and say, well, you just do it this way and do it this way, right? Jerome, what you were saying?
No. I was just saying, yeah, yes. it wanted to be not complicated, but things always gets complicated. Everything's
The
complicated.
more you don't want things to get complicated, they get
The more it
complicated.
becomes
right?
complicated. Yeah.
I always say it's not the things, it's people. You know, all the things are very, very simple. Even though they seem complicated, actually, those things are simple compared to people. People are very, very complicated, right? So, yeah. Okay, so he says, in terms of your work, okay, learn to be diligent. Okay, as we know, Venerable Master Xing Yun lives 300 years of his life. How does he do that? Because in a day, he does the amount of work of 6 people. Right? That's how much he, you know, if you ever read his diary or his publications about him, his schedule is so packed. The amount of people that he meets and what he does in a day, it's just beyond any of us. Okay, so in terms of living a long life, he increases the amount of work that he can get done in a day. Okay, okay, so interest and our ambition, he says, learn to rise above. Okay, so in terms of your ambition, whatever that is, rise above it. And then the last one, studying Buddhism, learn to have aspirations. Okay? So as today's talk is what, awakening, we aspire to be awakened. Right? Whether or not, I guess I'm not really sure how you thought of awakening. But if you think about, as the example I gave you earlier about before you learn Buddhism, or each time you hear a particular teaching, or if you read a particular, since you've been reading Buddha Dharma Pure and Simple, right? Some of the concepts that Venerable Master tried to explain, that I hope that it has been a journey for you, that, you know, little bit, you are actually kind of building up on that awakening, right? Okay, so let me go back to this. So in terms of what we have discussed so far, or this reading, what have you learned from today's discussion?
We have to ask more. We have to, so we can learn more. Little
Yeah,
realization
sure.
and bigger realizations. That's it. The
Yes,
more we
thank
ask,
you.
the more we learn.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then the 3 levels of Chan, the phases, the 3 phases of Chan, first, second, and third. Who
I
else?
learned
Who else?
things are not complicated, only the person complicated.
Okay.
Master, I have a question. Actually, that has to do with today's what I've learned from today's discussion. I guess from everyone's experience, I think we just keep on doing what best we can do to create good affinity, practice all this goodness. But that still doesn't come. What is the answer to the third stage?
What is the answer to the third stage? You mean the
Because so far all of it, okay, we do all good things, just create affinity, but that's basically polishing the mirror, right? So everyone's talking about it. Yeah, that's the awakening. So that's pretty much like, yeah, we control our anger. You know, we do good things. You know, because we learn Buddhism already, right? So what is the answer to the third stage? How do you get to the third stage?
how to get to the third stage? All of us will be on a different journey, right? Because there are so many Buddhas. You will become Jerome Buddha, whatever your practice will be, right? For Erwin, because he talks about his anger, right? So if you ever read about their names, it has something to do with their practice. And why do they practice those practices? It's because they need to practice those. Those are their issues, okay? So all of us will be on our own journey, whatever that is. Some people are not so angry people, but they're impatient, or they are very highly jealous, or they desire is what they struggle with, right? Or looks, or anything. So to answer your question of what's the last stage, right? So if you think about, have you ever had an aha moment? When we talk about this aha moment, when you suddenly go, oh, yeah. Have you ever had that?
That's being awakened.
Yeah, but that's your definition of awakening, right? So, but if you think about that very moment when you come to realize it, you see it, suddenly you see it. So what is that moment? What led you to that moment? Was it that one thing that led you to that moment? There are so many happenings before that for you to come to that very moment when you suddenly go,
Why didn't I think about that?
right?
Yeah, that's right.
The what we call the light bulb that goes off. But a lot of things has happened before that, but we mislook those things. So awakening, it's not that I'm trying to avoid the question of like the third stage, but because we all think of this, you know, this kind of like somewhere out there that you're trying to achieve. But actually it's not. It can happen actually in every day. that little bit that you come to realize something, that you know something. You know, even just that little bit about yourself. Even for Erwin, when you see that your anger, when you observe that anger about to, before you even open your mouth and you withhold your breath, and you just kind of just be aware with that, then in itself is already awakening, because the awareness is there, right? If I were to put it in a word, I think equates to awareness. It's not this kind of, you know, we always think of it like a big bang, but it can actually happen in every day. Right?
In short, we
It's
can
not
have our own
complicated.
different awakenings, po.
Sorry?
In short, it's one of us here can have our own different awakening.
Yes. Yes.
I guess there's like example for Erwin, maybe if we decide to think that, example, if I get angry, then it comes out, why should I be angry? Is it worth it getting angry over? By probably going through those questions. Then at the end, when I think about it, yeah, why should I be angry when I don't have to?
Making a better choice.
So that way, that is, we are still in second stage, Jerome, because we see the anger and then we are analyzing it after the fact. But what Master is saying is that later we should be able to see the anger arising, and we can decide whether or not we should become angry or not. Right now, we're not able to do that yet.
Complicated, that's why. I think you make it complicated. There's one story I'd like to share with everyone, if just a very short story. I remember like one of the master, I think Master Yongkong was saying this story. Supposedly there's this lady before, a very devotee. She's a very devotee of Kuan Yin Pusa. So but look at Kuan Yin Pusa is basically, you know, she's very well known for compassion, and they said that you chant her name, she'll come save you. So there was one time a coming storm coming in. So she said, oh, Kuan Yin Pusa is gonna save me. So I have to pray to Kuan Yin Pusa. So she started praying Namo Kuan Yin Pusa, so every time like that. So during that time, one of her neighbor came into her house. So she said, come on, let's go. The storm's coming. We have to seek shelter. But she said, no, Kuan Yin Pusa is gonna save me, so I have to stay and keep praying to Kuan Yin Pusa. She's gonna make this calamity go away. She's gonna save me from that. So after that, the water started rising. So she went to the second floor. So after that, the second floor, then the town came in with a boat because the flood is getting higher. So they said, come on, we'll come save you. You need to get out of here. It's very dangerous here. So they said, but she's still such a very devotee of Kuan Yin Pusa, and she really believed that Kuan Yin Pusa will come save her. So she said, no, I'll stay here. Kuan Yin Pusa will come save me. So she kept on chanting Kuan Yin Pusa's name. So as the floods start getting higher, she climbed up the roof. So after once she come to the roof already, she said, the helicopter came in already. Come save her. Come on. You gotta get out of here. This flood is getting really, really bad. You're gonna die here if you stay here. So, but she still kept her faith with Kuan Yin Pusa and still keep on chanting her name. So at the end, of course, the water flooded the whole town and she drowned. So when she drowned, she went to the Pure Land. And of course, the first person she asked is looking for Kuan Yin Pusa. So when she saw Kuan Yin Pusa, says, why didn't you save me? I chanted your name already all this time. And then Kuan Yin Pusa told her, didn't I save you? I came to you 3 times. First, when before the flood rising, I came. I was riding in a car. I was telling you, come on, you gotta evacuate this place. When the flood, you didn't want to come. So when the flood went a little bit higher, I came to a boat and tried to come save you, but you still didn't want to come. And so at the end, when even to the roof already, I even sent a helicopter to save you, but you still didn't. So is that at the end of it all, I guess you get to come to realization. Kwan Yin Pusa did came to her, but it's just she made it complicated because thinking that she wanted Kwan Yin Pusa herself to, looking for that form of Kwan Yin Pusa to show up and save her. So it's a little something I share when I thought about how making things, we always make things complicated.
Thank you for that story. Yes.
She
And
sees Kwan Yin Pusa as the statue. It's like the mountain is still the mountain.
yes, because you have a particular perception of how Guan Yin Bodhisattva looks like, but she can come in many different forms, right?
Yes.
So just like the way we can keep talking about awakening, but awakening is not, we cannot put that in words, right? We all try to describe it, but when, just like if you try to talk about that aha moment when that light bulb goes off, when you know it and you try to describe it to somebody what you have just realized. I'm not sure if you ever heard of this story of a Chan master. A story of how a person was meditating for a long time, for a week or something, and then suddenly, out of the meditation, he says, "Oh, I just realized my auntie is a woman." Okay, yeah, we all know that, right? Your auntie is a woman. But for this person to finally realize that she's a woman when he said that, he had come to a conclusion of his own, right? But you know that this person is a man, this person is so and so, but that's only on surface that you know it because they are referred to them as that. But if you actually come to your own conclusion of that, you have gone through a whole process, right? So even though that statement seems to be so simple, but it is not simple if you know the process that this person went through, right? Okay. So yes, somebody raised hand. Jeanette.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, for me, in the third one, with Brother Jerome is asking in the third stage. I just would like to tell. I think every one of us know this story already, but this is my awakening, and I'm not saying that I still can do it 100%, but I'm very glad that I'm already in this stage whenever I see things coming. This story goes like this. There was a man who suddenly, there's a very good stallion, went to his farm, and he just got the stallion, and and the neighborhood came over and congratulating him for founding a very nice stallion. So the farmer has no emotion, just say maybe, okay. Then suddenly the son of the farmer ride the the horse and fell down. So it break the leg of the son. Again, the neighbors came over to the house and give sympathy. Oh, that's very bad. Your son has broken his legs. We're very sorry. This horse or this stallion might be a bad luck. Then the farmers again said, maybe. Then suddenly the country went into war, and the government is telling the citizens that any male 18 and above has to be recalled to battle. So when the general came into their house and seeing the farmer was an old people already and the son with the broken leg, so they did not been accepted. So again, after the soldiers went away, the neighborhoods again congratulated the farmer and said, "Oh, you're so lucky. Your son didn't been cold. My husband was go there, and then my son also been taken away. You're so lucky." So the farmer just said, "Maybe, maybe." And then all of a sudden, the stallion went gone, got lost. So again, the neighborhood just tell them, "Oh, the stallion is lost. That is so bad." And the farmer said, "Maybe, maybe." Then the stallion again went back, and then it got another lady stallion, and it's pregnant. So the end of the story is that I learned that everything is cause, condition, and effect. We cannot control it. So whenever there is something situation comes in, I finally learned that don't get so serious. Just go with the flow. Just being with the now. I'm not saying that I can do it 100%, but at least emotionally, mentally, I am much calmer right now. And yeah, that's my awakening. So I hope, yeah, this story helps you also as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. You just reminded me, just 2 weeks ago when we were cleaning up, we picked up a cat at the balcony. The cat was, we believed it was abandoned by its mother. It was just in the gutter on the side of the pathway. It was very small. And then we picked it up and it felt, because it's been raining actually, so we believe that it's been in the rain. And we thought it's probably been abandoned by the mother. And then eventually we found somebody to take it. And now, just a few days ago, I received news from the carer that this cat is very smart. When we took it to the vet, it was only 10 days old. Okay, only 10 days. Just got a bit of cold, and then it's actually doing very well. And this cat is so smart that it knows to yelp. It calls, it yells when it wants to eat. And once, and she knows where to go for toilet. She doesn't pee everywhere, even though despite being small. So if you, just going along with what Jeanette has said, if you think about the cat, it was abandoned by the mother, which is a bad thing. But then yet, because the mother abandoned her, we picked it up, passed it on to somebody who's now looking after her very well. She's going to have someone look like actually adopting her. So sometimes despite the situation, we think it's the worst things that can happen to us, but just wait, when things might turn around and it actually becomes like a good thing. Just like the son who broke his leg, right? At first it's like, poor thing, you're crippled for life, but then it became like a blessing, right? So with the last question in one sentence or a word after today's discussion, awakening is, and please fill in the blank. Anyone?
Don't worry, be happy.
Okay, awakening is don't worry, be happy. Okay.
Ometefu, can you hear me?
Yes, Paul, yes.
Hi, yes, sorry. So in one sentence, I think for today, awakening, from hearing from everyone, awakening is a process. It's not a one-time thing. That's why it's called, it's awakening. It's a process, it's a verb, so it's continuous. You can go back to sleep if you don't put in the effort. So that's why you must be diligent in your practice. Join every Wednesday the discussion, because we have different levels of awakening, different levels of understanding. So we must continuously do an effort. So that's a very long one sentence. So yeah, that's my one sentence for me.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else? OJ?
Sifu. Awakening is the opposite of ignorance.
Thank you.
So, so every little realization that we have is a little awakening. So it varies on the questions that you ask,
Thank you.
as it was said in the beginning of the reading. Thank you, Sifu.
Thank you. Okay, so because we're almost down to the time, I wanted to share with you this little quote by Venerable Master. He says, small steps to enlightenment reach enlightenment at the end, right? From small steps. Accumulated small causes and conditions find great causes and conditions in the end. Okay, so with that, I conclude today's discussion. So we accumulate these small enlightenment. Okay, it's not, never underestimates that little aha moments that you might have in your days. Okay, and then eventually you actually come to that actual enlightenment where there's no kind of having to go back. Okay, once you awaken, once you come to realize something, you come to realize it for life. You can't undo it. You realized already. How can you undo what you realize? You can't undo that. You already realized it. So okay, so each time we build up on that little bit of enlightenment. So all the best. I pass the microphone, I guess, back to Venerable Yulin.
Thank you, Venerable Zushan, for this wonderful discussion. Before we continue with the prayer, I also want to share regard the phase of the three phases of Chan that I realized from the three acts of goodness, the three acts of goodness that we always promote: do good deeds, speak good words, and think good thoughts. When I was young, I always see the Buddhism book about body, mouth, and mind have to be purified. So in my heart, I'm thinking, what is it about? How to be purified? Um, if our body dirty, so we go take shower. Our mouth, and maybe we need to brush our teeth every day. So the mind, so what is it about? Until I met Fo Kong San, talk about the three acts of goodness: do good deeds, speak good words, and think good thoughts. And then still, I think I still haven't relate yet. How is it go? And then I just think that that are some those methods are very easy for us to learn and practice. And until one time, during the study group, a venerable share the wholesome deeds. Only I realized Venerable Master Shingen is so smart that he tried to summary things and find a methods for us to learn. So instead of to say purify all these things, but then he lead us what are the methods, like from the 10 wholesome deeds sutra, the body, the three practice of the body, and then the mouth, four practices, and then the mind, three practices. For example, the body, three practices, that we no killing, that is what we learn from the 5%. No killing, no stealing, and no sexual misconduct. That's already purify of mind, purify of the body. So thought from mouth, thought things from mouth, no false false speech, um, malicious speech, harsh speech, and gossip. So we only have one mouth, but then the mouth has so many practices that we have to avoid. We should not do. And then for the mind, um, no ill will, like no greedy, and then no coveting, and also the important is we're going to always processing the right view in the Dharma way. So that the way that if we teach this to other people, people might get confused. Oh, the 10 things that I need to always practice and I need to remember. But Venerable Master Hsing Yun just make it easier. Okay, you just practice the 3 acts of goodness. Your body do good deeds, your mouth speak good words, your mind think good thoughts. So I think this is my second phase. And then the third, after we continue to practice, and maybe then yet I'm going to tell you, oh, okay, you know, we're going to purify our body, mouth, and mind. So there is a third phase already. I go back to when I see the mountain, is still the mountain. The water is still the water, river. So I think that is also what I come across with the 3 phases of Chan today. Thank you again to Venerable Zushan because time's already almost. So we just go direct to the dedication of merits.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll share my screen again and let's found join, and then after the dedication of merits, let's have the picture taking. Thank you very much, everyone. Please turn on your video so we'll have a lot of people on our pictures. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Lotus flower. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
you.
you.
Sipo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you, Shifu.
Good night, everyone.
Hope you
Good
enjoy the rest of the
night.
day.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.